The Raid, Tom Hardy edition, aka Havoc, a Netflix original from XYZ Films and other studios, and it was written and directed by Gareth Evans, who did The Raid, Apostle, and the Safe Haven tape from VHS2. The one about the Indonesian death cult that was really goddamn haunting, really well done, and made me realize that Gareth Evans, if nothing else, is going to create some monumentally, spectacularly bloody action that was really goddamn hard to say without getting in a tongue twister. Speaking of tongue twisters, there are a few involved in this, like the tongue-twisting storyline that makes you think, boy, they really didn't even try to make this thing other than painfully generic. But fortunately, the action carries and pretty much drags this film to a positive recommendation. That's right, I enjoyed Havoc. It has its holes, a lot of holes, and not just the bullet holes that numerous people incur. Seriously, I think the body count was like over 1,000 in this. It was astonishing. When the action flows and the blood flows, it really decides how to go. It puts the pedal to the metal, it's 95 minutes, and it really makes the most of its runtime. Even with the story elements that have been done time and time and time again. Remember Ninja Assassin? It's a lot like that. You don't really focus on the story, you focus on the action, and that's what Havoc does, and that's its strength. Also, Forrest Whitaker is in this as a mayor that's trying to clean up not Gotham City, seriously. It looks exactly like Gotham City would, just without the Tim Burton-esque, set pieces. I do want to shout out Michelle Watson, who's a former MMA fighter and plays the main assassin and is a fucking smoke show. Good goddamn grief. There are other smoke shows in this, such as the cop Ellie, played by Jessie Mae Lee, who was Laura in Last Night in Soho. And if you have not watched Last Night in Soho, please do. Not just for her, but for the fact that this was my favorite movie of 2021. One of my favorite movies of the decade so far. Has Anya Taylor-Joy and Thomasin McKenzie. Sign me the fuck up. But anyway, yeah, that right there. We have Justin Cornwall as Charlie, and then we have Quellen Sepulveda, who I've seen her and stuff before, but it's kind of really blending together how many people had been in certain things. Timothy Olyphant is in this. It's wild to think that he was one of the killers in Scream 2. Sorry if that's a spoiler, the movie has been out for 28 fucking years. So, apparently, filming wrapped on this sometime in 2021, but numerous reshoots and delays caused this thing to just be released now. So, not exactly the best, bit of news when you realize that this film has been in development hell for a while. I think you can kind of tell where the reshoots were. I will say that Gareth Evans' strengths are, with the bloody, brutal violence that really shows some creative kills. I don't know why so many meat cleavers and things were needed in this, especially with the locations they were used in. But boy, they really decided to just put the pedal to the goddamn metal, and it works. It mostly goddamn works, even if Tom Hardy's U.S. accent always weirds me the fuck out. So, we start off with basically, Tom Hardy talking about choices that can define you and choices that can ruin your lives, and then you're left to pick up the pieces. Pick up the pieces. And basically, the story of this, he works for the mayor, he's done cleanup for the mayor, he's a semi-dirty cop, but he's decided to turn over a new queef, I don't think that's actually how that phrase goes, and decides to rescue the mayor's son, Charlie, from a bad situation. A bad situation, actually, by the way, that pretty much is never fully goddamn explained. We just see bloody, brutal violence happen, but never, it's a drug deal gone bad. I do want to also mention about Jessie Mae Lee that she goes by she, her pronouns, also they, them pronouns. Let's be respectful of that. If anybody else in this cast does, also, I do apologize. It's a good thing I research a little bit of this because I don't want to seem insensitive since I'm still trying to be respectful and figure this stuff out. But Jessie actually is a pretty good actor, and I'd like to see more of what they do. So, yeah, the development hell aspect really should not give people pause to give this a chance. Now, is it as good as The Raid? No. Is it as good as Safe Haven? No. Safe Haven was a lot creepier. That was more horror-based. This is your standard cop drama just with a lot of flair, a lot of style over substance. And really, it's like a 1.5-star story, but it's like 4-star action. It is really, really fucking good. So, that being said, it's on Netflix if you want to check it out. I'm going to get into spoilers, which may not actually take much time because the plot is simultaneously simple and also very convoluted. So I'll do the best I can to figure it out. But it's on Netflix, and again, Tom Hardy does pretty good in the lead, even as weird as his filmography is. The rest of the cast does what they can. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So we start out with the narration from Tom Hardy, and then some RVing that was a lot more dangerous in this universe, apparently, than it actually is, because there's a lot of drugs and a lot of other stuff, and a guy's been shot. And it turns out that Tom Hardy, along with Vince, played by Timothy Olyphant, was part of like some operation that led to the shooting of one guy that turned out to be an informant. Not informer, not Licky Boom Boom Down. There you go. Bet you didn't expect that bullshit. And since this is it's taking place during Christmas, but I decided not to wear the goddamn hat because they didn't really rely on the Christmas theme all that much. And also it's April, so I decided not to go with that. In fact, this movie really doesn't decide like to focus on the Christmas theme. They mention it like twice. It's not a Christmas movie like Die Hard is. Argue with me in the comments, as it were. And also, the hat actually is in the wash because it got dirty, so I wasn't able to use it. So yeah, Forrest Whitaker's got that east-west connection with his eyesight. He could read 2 eye charts at once. That's mean. I don't know why I decided to say that, but nevertheless. You can definitely tell that it's from the guy who did Safe Haven. There's a great opening chase scene with with some washing machines full of money and drugs. One is shoved out onto a car, and a guy named Cortez gets basically crushed. Great gore, by the way, in this. And, well, I do have to say, again, Jessie May Lee is really, really attractive, with all due respect to her/them, with all due respect. Great look, has a good character arc here. One of the few good character arcs in this, to be perfectly honest. And yeah, it's a good thing that after this drug bust goes this drug deal goes basically tits up, that Tom Hardy basically has a Netflix chip in his head, so he can see all this action that happened and all this bloody, brutal stuff, and finds out about Charlie and Mia, Justin, and Quaylen. And they must be found before the leader of this particular thing, Clarice. I don't know why the leader of a Chinese crime syndicate is named Clarice, but it's fine. And that's basically the idea. Walker, or Patrick, as he's known to some people, Patrick Walker, Hardy Ranger. He's trying to basically rescue Charlie. That's not easy. You never anger a Chinese mafia woman leader. I've learned that the hard way. Do not ask me how. And it turns out that the cops, actually, led by Vincent, were the ones that did this, basically just destroying of this drug deal. I know this needs more bodies piling up, at least 5 different times on my notes. And there's a fight in a club. There's a Gestafelstein, I think is the name of the band. It was good music. I actually need to check it out once I'm done with this. But pretty good music, and really the club scene, I think, was one of the big highlights. It was great action. It just paused, or, let things go just low, not even drag, but just stall a little bit before picking right back up. Great chase scenes. Luis Guzman is in this for some reason. He's just in pretty much everything now. And again, I need to check out this band's music because it seems like really fun club music. Why were there so many meat cleavers in a goddamn club? Are they cutting up lots of meat? Is that how they cut up their martinis? Shaken, not cleaved? I mean, what are they... Why? And at one point, Mia beats some people to death with an ice bucket. That was creative. And Luis Guzman's character, Tio, I think was his name, decides, oh shit, hey, wait a second. I know you really well, Mia. I raised you like you were my own kid, I guess. They kind of just threw that in there last minute. And he was going to make passports for them so they could all get away. But then, well, that doesn't happen. He ends up getting shot up. More people get shot up. Vincent and co. show up, and there's just more gunfire. There's a lot of goddamn gunfire in this. Michelle Watson does end up doing some great stunt work in this. I do want to say you can definitely tell that she's a former MMA fighter, and I certainly never mind. I'm just going to move on from that. That much I'll say. But The guy Cortez, who was involved in this, who was involved in being crushed by the thing, I believe, the washer, he ends up getting shot up in the hospital by a guy named Ching. That's the guy's name. That's not me being offensive. Don't know why they had to give him that name. He's in on this, and he's part of the syndicate, but then maybe he's not part of Clarice's syndicate. Maybe he works with Vincent, and yeah, the plot's kind of just all over the place. But he ends up shooting up Cortez. He shoots up the wife that's there. Ellie ends up pursuing him and shooting him in both legs, seemingly. That was pretty creative. A shootout in the stairwell was well done. Great camera work. Great technical wizardry here. And then it's mentioned that Walker has his old dad's cabin by the lake, so they just need to go there. I mean, alright, fine. What is what is. So, essentially, there's a big old gunfight breaking out with all kinds of stunt work and blood and craziness at this cabin that was fully furnished and not shot up with bullets, but then that happens. And all through this, by the way, you know, a little bit, or at pretty much beginning of the movie, Walker was trying to get some last-minute gifts for his daughter for Christmas, but he's been kind of estranged from them because he's been doing work, he's been trying to earn money, and the wife's been doing what she can to help out all this stuff. Or, you know, help raise the kid and stuff like that, and he's trying to be a good dad. It's like Locked if Locked wasn't directed by a sea cucumber. And more gunfire, more people getting shot. Eventually, there was a harpoon part at one point where, you know, where Michelle Watson's character just got killed. That was brutal. That was some good stuff. I mean, what a way to go. I gotta say that. I mean, that's. I guess if you're gonna build that character up like that and have her be invincible, have her go that way. So Vincent shows up. We get more shootouts and stuff, and Ellie almost gets capped, but then the other gun partners or the cop partners get killed. Charlie ends up being saved by his dad Forrest Whitaker, because Clarice's son was killed in this drug deal, and she thought that Charlie had something to do with it, but he didn't, because the cops had something to do with it. Are you following this? Because the movie sure didn't know how to follow it. And Ellie apparently spoke Cantonese, which is a dialect in China. I had to Google that because I actually forgot what goddamn country that came from. So Charlie ends up basically saved by his dad. Protect Mia, he basically says, because I guess he just gave up fixing up the city and getting out of the corruption. And then Vincent tries to get on a train to get away, but Tom Hardy shoots him. He does get shot at one point, but then just unloads an entire clip on him and shoots him on the tracks, and then he's leaning up against the train. Other cops are coming. Ellie basically says, you know, what's going to happen? Well, I guess you're going to take me in. Well, let me make sure stuff gets to your daughter. No, I don't want to ruin her Christmas, and it just cuts to credits. I mean, again, the violence and the action is really what elevates this movie, because everything else about it is so standard and so generic. And I'm probably not going to think much about this movie outside of the action, like by the time this weekend hits. But Havoc is fun enough. It does create a feeling of Havoc. It sure does end up becoming just a lot of noise, but it's fun noise, and you can sink your teats into it. I don't think that's how that phrase goes, but nevertheless, B+ for the action. And F for the goddamn storyline, if we're being perfectly honest, and for the character development for the most part, but a B+ for the action, so B+ overall, because that's mostly what it is. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and I'll see you soon.